Welcome into Steelers Talk. I'm your host, Jack Sperry, and tonight on the show, there's a new report from ESPN that the Eagles could be shopping A.J. Brown this offseason. Should the Pittsburgh Steelers consider trading for the superstar wide receiver? I'll give you my answer at the top of today's show. Then I'll get into an interesting Aaron Rodgers stat, going back to his past, that might indicate that he's ready for a year two leap with the Pittsburgh Steelers if he decides to come back for the 2026 season. Make sure you guys stick around to see what that is. But make sure you guys click that follow button on X if you haven't already and follow me on that platform. I'm going to be putting out a bunch of film analysis stuff on there. I've already started on especially this year's wide receiver class for the Pittsburgh Steelers when it comes to the draft, and I'm going to be putting out my quarterback rankings here soon. So make sure you guys give me a follow at Jack_Sperry for more Steelers content every single day from me, Jack Sperry, right here on the internet. All right, so now let's get into Jeremy Fowler from ESPN, who reported today that teams around the league seem to think that the Philadelphia Eagles are going to listen to trade offers for superstar wide receiver A.J. Brown. It's been widely, known. We watched it on, our TVs here during NFL Sundays this year. Kind of the disdain that A.J. Brown has kind of built up for that Eagles organization and for Jalen Hurts, and he doesn't feel like he's properly utilized there. So this is what Jeremy Fowler says about the latest on that situation. Well, some people I've talked to around the league, some executives of other teams, do expect that the Eagles will at least entertain a trade for A.J. Brown, who was unhappy on numerous fronts. I mean, name the counts where he looked like he was miserable out there. Body language was not good. So something has to give. That's sort of the feeling right now. They can build around DeVonta Smith and some other pieces, Saquon Barkley, maybe add a receiver. He would create a haul for the Eagles if they do go that route. Nothing has happened as of yet, but there are a lot of changes coming with the Eagles. Now, the question for Steelers fans out there is, should the Pittsburgh Steelers consider pursuing A.J. Brown if a trade with the Philadelphia Eagles is possible this offseason? And it's definitely something that's an interesting idea, because A.J. Brown is legitimately like a top 5, maybe top 3 receiver in football right now, with his size, his ability to run routes, and his ability to run after the catch, make tough catches at the catch point. Like, A.J. Brown is one of the more dominating forces physically in the National Football League at the position. He's going to be 29 years old next year. He's currently 28, but he's 6'1", 226 pounds, is built like Adonis, and he still has 4 years left on his current contract. So if the Steelers trade for him, guys, this is what the cap hits look like. It's not that bad. He's got a lot of money put into void years on his contract, so the Steelers would be paying for him for about eight seasons against the cap, is essentially the way that it would work if the Steelers trade for him. But if you're paying a top 5, maybe top 3 elite caliber wide receiver less than $15 million against your cap next year, I mean, that is just something that is a complete bargain, especially if A.J. Brown plays like the All-Pro that he's been a number of times throughout his NFL career here in the Steel City. And in my opinion, guys, if the Pittsburgh Steelers really feel like this team is ready to take that next step and try to be like the next version of the Seattle Seahawks, for example, where you try to go from 10-7 to the Super Bowl in one offseason, this is the type of all-in move that would kind of cement that thinking, where A.J. Brown, you'd have to be paying, against the cap with him for 8 seasons, and only 4 of those he's going to be on the team, or at least under contract right now. But, the benefit of that is you're not paying him a ton against the cap while he's playing, and you're getting, still one of the top receivers in the National Football League for the next 4 years. And guess who's also under contract for the next 4 years here in Pittsburgh? It's one of his best friends in the entire world, his Ole Miss teammate, DK Metcalf. And I know for a fact A.J. Brown would love to play with DK again. And, you might be saying at home, but Jack, how can they afford to pay both of these guys? Number one, we just showed you that the Steelers wouldn't have to be paying him all that much against the cap for him to be brought in here. Then also, Pittsburgh is likely not going to be paying that much at the quarterback position, not only here in 2026, as it looks like Aaron Rodgers will be coming back for another year, and I'm guessing he'll play for $15 or less million on that 1-year deal. But then after that, they're probably going to be drafting a quarterback who's going to be starting, or it's going to be Will Howard. It's going to be somebody that's not on a massive quarterback contract. So the Steelers can theoretically afford to pay both DK Metcalf and A.J. Brown to form one of, if not the best wide receiver duo in the National Football League right here in Pittsburgh. Now, in terms of what it would cost to go get A.J. Brown in a trade, it's going to be expensive, all right? He's a top 5 receiver in the game, big name, all those different things. It's going to cost at least a first-round first-round pick. And they might even be asking for 2 first-round picks, maybe upwards of like more than that, like 2 firsts and a player or 2 firsts and another pick. All that is possible. But for me, the price that I'd probably be willing to pay is a first-round pick, a number 21 overall this year, and a third-round pick this year. The Steelers have 3 third-round picks. I'm going to give them the final one here, number 99 overall, in exchange for A.J. Brown. That would be my first idea that just involves picks. But if you don't want to give up your first-round pick this year, another thing you could think about doing is giving them T.J. Watt, okay? Because the Steelers are already in a predicament where Nick Herbig looks like he might be requesting a trade if and when the Steelers say, yeah, we're not trading you and we're keeping Watt and Highsmith. Like, Herbig wants to start, and rightfully so. He's a starting caliber player in this league, and if push comes to shove, he might try to get his way out of Pittsburgh. The only way to really keep Herbig around, in my opinion, is if you trade T.J. Watt or Alex Highsmith. Right now, Highsmith was more efficient than T.J. Watt was last year. He's younger, and he's far less expensive against the cap. T.J. Watt currently is slated for a $42 million cap hit for the Pittsburgh Steelers in 2026. So if I'm going to be trading one of those outside linebackers and including them in this trade, I would include T.J. Watt, who is a declining player at age 30 now, but he's somebody that's still very good, somebody that would fit into the Eagles' Vic Fangio-style system. They run a 3-4 there, and then they still get an additional third-round pick in the deal, but the Steelers don't have to give up that much in draft capital to make this deal happen. Which one do you prefer here? Let me know. Between these 2 trade ideas, which one do you like better? Do you like one? Do you like 2? Or do you like neither, and you don't want A.J. Brown to be, A.J. Brown to be a Pittsburgh Steeler? This will be the pinned comment on today's show, so in just a second here, I'm going to tell you about our sponsor today at GLD. While I tell you about our sponsor today, let me know which trade you like better down there in the comment section. All right, fellas, let's be real. Buying men's jewelry can be an absolute nightmare nowadays. Most of the time, it's low-quality junk that snaps after a week, or it's insanely overpriced with ridiculous markups. That's why I rock with GLD. Use code CHAT to get 50% off at GLD.com. GLD has completely changed the game in men's jewelry. You're getting high-quality pieces that are built to last without breaking the bank. And unlike a lot of other companies, GLD only uses real gold, none of the cheap stuff. Every single stone is meticulously hand-set, plus their proprietary production process makes sure you're getting the highest quality jewelry possible. You can literally see and feel the difference. You guys can take a look here at my Steelers pendant that I wore for a lot of our Steelers watch parties here. Every time I wear this, man, it just gives you a different feeling, all right? Any piece from GLD is going to give you that different feeling that you get when you get that new chain. It just hits different. It elevates your whole fit, the confidence, the compliments that you get, the way that you carry yourself all change instantly, and GLD has everything from chains to pendants to rings, earrings, and even fully iced out watches if that's your thing. But whatever your style, they've got you covered. And listen, don't just take my word for it, guys. Over 2 million customers and 50,000 5-star reviews back this stuff up. Not to mention it's worn by some of the biggest names out there like Justin Bieber, Micah Parsons, Tyreek Hill, Malik Neighbors, A$AP Rocky, and a ton more. The best part, though, is that every single piece from GLD is guaranteed for life. It's literally built to last the rest of your life, just like your love for the Pittsburgh Steelers. Work hard and change the game right now. GLD is making shopping easy for you guys for only a limited time. New customers can get an insane deal. Use code CHAT to get 50% off at GLD.com. That's 50% off with code CHAT at GLD.com. After your purchase, they'll ask where you heard about them. Please support our show and tell them that we sent you. And a big thank you to GLD for sponsoring tonight's edition of Steelers Talk. Now, many seem to think that Aaron Rodgers can't get better in year 2 with the Pittsburgh Steelers. And I think the reason why this is because of the age, right? Because he's 42, there's no room for growth, apparently. In a lot of people's minds when it comes to Aaron Rodgers with the Pittsburgh Steelers, they just think no matter what receiver upgrades they make, no matter what offensive mind they bring in here, Aaron Rodgers is just going to be exactly the same that he was last year, and there's no room for improvement for the Steelers offense with him at quarterback next season. But here's the thing, man, especially in an offense that Rodgers likes to run with a lot of audibles and a lot of checks and a lot of option routes, it usually takes a good year for Rodgers to develop and settle in to a specific group and a specific offense. And we've seen this over the course of his career, and he even broke this down for us towards the end of this season where he kind of pondered, what it would look like in a second year here with the Pittsburgh Steelers. He said anytime you're in a first-year offense, there's always some growing pains in the offense. So it's like you feel like if you had another year, what could you do? I look at 2019 2019, the first year with Matt LaFleur, the way I played in 2019, and then kind of the adjustments we made in the offseason, and then the way in 2020 that I played in 2020, which was just kind of in a whole other level. I think a lot of that is just familiarity with the offense and the guys, and we've done the best that we could with our conversations and our meeting time outside the facility and our meeting time inside the facility. Obviously, the more years you get in a system with the same guys, the more continuity you have, the better you feel you can play. And we've seen this phenomenon kind of play out throughout Aaron Rodgers' career. His first year as a full-time starter under Mike McCarthy, by the way, in 2008 in Green Bay. It's a pretty decent season, right? 28 touchdowns, 13 interceptions, a quarterback rating over 90. Pretty good season, right? But now that he's got continuity in that 2009 season, he took it to a whole nother level. That yards per attempt jumped up to over 8, right? He got up to 30 touchdowns, and he cut the interceptions in half, leading to a passer rating over 100. And then he himself pointed out the big difference in play from the first year in Matt LaFleur's offense in 2019 to his MVP season in 2020, and you guys can see the big year 2 leap that Rodgers made during that. And it's not like Rodgers was a spring chicken at that point in his career either. I mean, he went from 62% completion percentage to over 70. His yards per attempt jumped over a yard, nearly doubled the amount of touchdowns he threw, and he still barely threw any interceptions. His passer rating went up a bunch, and he ends up winning MVP. Now, I'm not saying Rodgers would win MVP here in Pittsburgh in his second year with DK Metcalf and Pat Freiermuth, but there is reason to believe that now that he's had a year of chemistry built up with those guys, that there's going to be more familiarity and there's going to be a better product on the field because of that. And you guys can take a look at the first years Rodgers has spent in certain systems and with certain groups, and it's pretty similar, okay? Like similar touchdown to interception ratio, similar passer ratings, all of them are within 2 points of each other. Rodgers plays very similarly in the first year of these types of systems, but then he usually jumps that to over 100 of a passer rating, increasing the touchdowns, getting less interceptions, higher yards per attempt. And I think that that's something that we can reasonably expect from Aaron Rodgers in his second year working with the players that he worked with in year 1 here with the Pittsburgh Steelers. But you might be saying, but Jack, this is a new head coach coming in here, and Mike McCarthy, he's going to be running his own system with his own language, different from Arthur Smith. So isn't it going to be like Rodgers' first year all over again, where he has to relearn all this stuff? And for me, guys, I can tell you right now, Aaron Rodgers, with the photographic memory that he has, I'm guessing that, he can help cultivate an offense and a language with Mike McCarthy and the rest of the players in this locker room to, really help transition these players from the Arthur Smith offense to the Mike McCarthy offense. And honestly, with the way that the Steelers played offense last year, it was very much closer to a Mike McCarthy style offense than it was to a traditional Arthur Smith offense, because frankly, Aaron Rodgers likes to run the offense the way he runs the offense, and Arthur Smith kind of allowed him to do that. So, this offense is, at least stylistically, is not going to look that much different. I just think you've got a more competent play caller behind the wheel in Mike McCarthy, and you've got, certain concepts here in a more aggressive type of play caller in Mike McCarthy compared to what Arthur Smith was last year here in Pittsburgh. Now, just to kind of show you guys my math here and just kind of show my work in terms of why I think that this offense can take another step next year with Aaron Rodgers as the starting quarterback, like you combine the continuity of the players in 2025, then you take into account that Mike McCarthy is an upgraded offensive play caller, and then you also take into account that this wide receiver room is hopefully going to be a lot better next year than it was last year with Calvin Austin III as your number 2 receiver, and he couldn't even get to 400 yards on the entire season. I'm guessing that there's going to be a year 2 leap here, okay? Like there's increased continuity, there's increased talent in the wide receiver room, there's increased competence at the offensive play caller position. All right, I don't care if Aaron's 43 years old. Like he still showed last year he's got supreme football IQ still. He still has great arm talent. Like, no, he can't move anymore, but other great quarterbacks in the league, like Matthew Stafford, who just won MVP, can't move. He had 1 rushing yard the entire season. The difference is he had a great play caller and great wide receiver weapons. Hopefully the Steelers can get Aaron Rodgers the same thing in 2026. And even then, with a bottom 3, maybe the worst wide receiver situation in football, they had an above average points per game offense last year. All right, they were around league average in the advanced metrics as well. Aaron Rodgers elevated this offense last year, period. And now you add continuity to the mix, you add a better play caller, and you add a better wide receiver room. I think we could see a pretty big year 2 leap from Aaron Rodgers if he decides to return as this team's starting quarterback in 2026. So true or false? Let me know down there in the comment section. Pittsburgh's offense would be top 10 next year if Aaron Rodgers returns as this team's starting quarterback. They were top 15 in scoring offense this year. Do you think they move up 5 spots with the improved play caller, the continuity, and the better wide receiver room? Give me a T for true or F for false. Let me know what you guys think down there in the comment section. I think there's a pretty decent chance of this becoming true, guys. But that'll be it for today's edition of Steelers News and Rumors. Thank you guys so much for joining me here today. I'll catch you guys next time, and until then, here we go, Steelers.